Welcome to day number 314. We have a celebrity in our midst, Stefan Baumann, who of course is the art teacher on PBS. Stefan, welcome.
Welcome. Welcome to my post studio. This is not quite the studio I usually work in, but this is my winter studio.
Okay, well, we'll learn all about that today. What are you going to teach us?
I'm actually going to try to do a painting from start to finish. I don't know how far we'll get, but I will be doing a lot of explanation along the way.
Okay, now you say you have a winter studio and a summer studio. Tell us quickly about that.
Well, the winter studio is actually up in my house. It's also closer to the internet. That's where I do all my coaching. And then my summer studio is actually one of the horse barns that's I spend most of my time in.
And you live in you live north of San Francisco. Where do you live?
Mount Shasta.
Mount Shasta. Wow. So you probably have snow.
We had 4 feet of snow over the weekend, and then it rained for the last 2 days, so we have 4 feet of slush. So not a good day to go out and paint outdoors.
Yeah, well, let's get that painting started.
Okay, well, I will. This is going to be a painting on Vernal Falls. I've gone ahead and toned the canvas already. I usually don't tone my canvas. I usually like working on a white surface, but for this case, usually the internet and cameras really don't like having a white canvas. And so what I did was I kind of lightly sketched it. Normally I wouldn't even put in a sketch. I actually sketch it while I do this, but it keeps my concentration up. And I want to start working with my darks. And if I were there on location, for some of you that have seen my PBS show, you would notice that this is kind of the way that I do work. And I'm working on a prime canvas, oil prime canvas, and the canvas itself is masterpiece canvas.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Yeah, it is good stuff. I'm nothing but the best to do a demo for you guys.
Oh, well, of course.
So if I were outdoors painting, I would be doing the exact same thing. Actually laying in my sketch and laying in my foundation.
What color are you using? It looks like a raw sienna or burnt umber? What is it?
This is asphaltum. This is the color that when we do the conventions, this is the color that everybody gets wild over when I do the demos. And they go out. I buy this one from Richardson, and again, it's called asphaltum. It's actually used to be made out of mummy shells back in the old days. And Sargent and some of the really old painters from the 1880s, 1890s would actually use this. One thing I wanted to address real quick is that for me, I have like 12 keys. And if you ever spend any time reading my blogs and whatnot, I make a point that the horizon line is one thing that's overlooked a lot. And I want to make sure that I always want to have a horizon line in here. It's really important. Most artists don't know it, but the horizon line is exactly where your eyes are. And you kind of have to keep in mind that everything above you is going to be looking up at. And everything below that horizon line, you're going to be looking down at. So if we're actually looking at rocks below the horizon line, the rocks down here we'd see the tops of. And here we're actually looking up at the bottom of the rocks. And it's the same thing with trees. All these trees that go in here will actually we'll be looking up at them. So it's really important to know that. And the horizon line should be somewhere in the middle. Now, I know that everybody says, don't put something in the middle, but something has to be there. The main thing that you want to have in the middle of the painting is the horizon line, because that's the way that we see. We look out at things. No matter where we look at, the horizon line is definitely in the middle of our eyesight.
Now, clearly, in this particular case, that horizon line is not at your eye level. So explain that.
Well, this is, if I were looking at the picture, it would be. So if I were out there on location looking at it. So the middle of the canvas is here, and this is lower, and this is somewhere in the center of the horizon line. And if I were standing on a rock looking at Vernal Falls, this is my relationship to Vernal Falls.
Yeah, okay.
So you always want to make sure that that horizon line is in that center area. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so quickly I want to go in. Again, I'm using more asphaltum and cobalt blue. That's what kind of makes it, it's going to be a little bit grayer. When I lay in my painting, I usually start off with a combination of cobalt blue, and asphaltum, because I can go back and forth between my dark gray, because the asphaltum and the cobalt make it gray, and my brown.
Now, the original asphaltum was a fleeting color like the original alizarin crimson. It would ultimately lose a lot of it would fade, but these are now made with different substances.
Yes. A lot of, in fact, Michael Harding uses brown oxide as a substitute color. So I'm going in, very quickly, I'm just going to sketch this in.
Hello, Netherlands. You guys tell us where you're coming in from, and I'll read them off from time to time to Stefan so that he gets a big ego. Yeah.
Well,
hello, Norway.
I have coaching students all over the world, so I know they're turning now.
All right, good.
So I have over 100 coaching students that I coach worldwide.
That's great.
So it's a pretty big thing. So as you can see, I'm just very quickly laying in my base. This is where the falls will be. My easel's being uncooperative. And then we have the line up here. This is the mountain that's in back. There are a few little trees. And you know, the thing is, when you're working outdoors, you really have to think about Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting. At the very end, he says the most crucial thing is memorization. And when you go out to a place like this, Monet said that the light changes every 7 minutes. So you got to literally memorize the lighting effect. Then most landscape paintings done on location fail because the artist is not paying attention to where the light is and where the central focal point is. And right now I'm laying in the base colors for the trees, just a little sketch. There's a few little trees over here. And these are just to jog my memory. I call those little footnotes. They're to jog my memory to where everything is supposed to be. The crucial thing in a painting, not only do you have like the horizontal line within the middle third, but you want to have the central focal point. And most paintings, most artists forget that the central focal point is key to keeping your viewer. And so I'm going to take white and lay in a base coat for that. We're going to get a little odd lighting here because the sun's coming out. So just bear with it. It might go away in a sec. Okay. And then what I want to do is I want to start laying in my base color for my waterfall.
Waterfalls I find to be difficult, so I'm curious what the trick to them is.
The trick to waterfall is to first thing get that it's a massive amount of water that falls over, and the bigger the waterfall, the more power it has, the more it breaks down as it goes over the water, so you get this kind of movement. I like to kind of do this little jogging motion upwards, and I'll show you when I get a little bit of highlight onto the waterfall. But right now, this whole waterfall sits in shadow. The light's coming in. This is from one of my trips. I'm kind of trying to recall. And like I said, the most important thing that you can do when you go on a location is to memorize. And I've painted Vernal Falls enough that I thought, you know, this would be a good thing for Eric's crew to.
So you're doing this from memory?
I've got a couple of black and white things, and there's in the other room, I have another Vernal Falls like this. So a lot of it is just memory. Yeah. So,
all right.
But that's the key feature when you go outdoors to paint. Like I said, Monet said the light changes every 7 minutes. So if you're not thinking about where the light is when you first start, you already failed at the beginning. Normally what I tell people is that before you start a painting, what you want to do is you want to sit down and look. And this is what Sargent did also. He wouldn't really care what was in front of him. He wanted a place that was comfortable, and he would just sit down, and then he'd look up, and he would study for about 10 minutes. No notons, no preliminary sketches, because while you're doing all of that, you're totally left brain thinking about your things, and you just have to be with it. And you'd be surprised how the brain memorizes things. And so when you actually sit in front of something and study it for a while, your brain actually absorbs it. And you just kind of say, here's my light, here's my shadow. Actually say to yourself, what kind of story do I want to tell? Now, Eric, here you were saying about doing waterfalls. You know, it is about getting this energy, you know, so there's not a light. I don't want to put a lot of light on my waterfall here because I want the light to be in the central focal point here. But what you do is you take the corner of the brush and you kind of do this little up movement. You actually start at the bottom of these little pillows that come down. If it's a much longer one, you start at the base, kind of do these little pillows and brush upwards. Okay, and while I have that color, I'm going to go ahead and start putting in a little bit of the sky. Normally, if I'm outdoors painting, I don't put in the sky, because that's something you can kind of put in the studio.
Why don't you do it when you're outdoors?
Because it takes up time. You know, time is of an essence. You want to spend about 2 hours on a location painting, and the whole key is to try to get the location painting done in 2 hours. After 2 hours, it's not the same painting anymore. So, and since the light's coming from the right-hand side, I'm going to whiten the right-hand side of my sky. And one important thing when you're painting is having transitions. And if you notice, I don't know if you could see that here, but I'm starting with the light on the right-hand side and I'm transitioning into a shadow on the left-hand side.
Yeah, yep, I see it.
Okay, so.
Hey, thumbs up and applause for Stefan, by the way. He's a great teacher.
Thanks. Well, I can't wait to go to Colorado again to help students out at the convention in May. So if you happen to sign up in May, be sure to look me down because I'm going to have some videotapes that I'm going to be giving away there. And I'm willing to give away, I have a workshop here in April at the ranch here in Mount Shasta. And I don't know how Eric could work this out, but I'd like to give 2 free workshops valued at $500 a piece to anybody who's tuned in right now. So I don't know if there's a number that you can go by, Eric, or if you just want to.
Well, the way we're going to have to do it, because there are more people on the replay than there are on the live. So you have a choice. We can either give it away on the live or we can give it away tomorrow. We can pick it tonight.
No, we're going to give it away live.
You want to give it away live?
In the morning. So towards the end, if you can remember, just, you know, run some kind of way of, but I'd like to do that for you.
All right, we'll do it.
Now, what I'm going to do here is that, I wish I could get, where's the sun coming from? Hold on, I'm going to see if I can close.
It looks like I see sculpture in the background. Who's doing sculpture?
That's me also.
Oh, you're just a Renaissance man.
Yeah, I've been doing animal sculpture. I'm trying to get, hold on. No, it's not going to work.
No, it must be coming in a high window.
It is coming in. I have these big windows in my studio here that look out over Mount Shasta.
Well, he's working on that. Let me just say that the winner of the value specs from yesterday is Ken Harrison from Alabama. Today's prize is an easel brush clip, which I'll announce tomorrow. And of course, we're going to give away, what'd you say, 3 workshops?
2 workshops, but you can make it 3 if you like.
No, 2 is good. 2 is good. And those are in person or are they on Zoom?
No, they're in person. They're in April.
Wow, that's
they're
really
right
generous.
before the convention in May.
You guys make sure you leave comments. The way to win is by leaving comments and saying where you're from. And then we'll grab from the comments today for at the end of the broadcast while we're live. This is a chance to win one of 2 workshops, and we'll pick 2 people. All right.
Awesome. So you can see that when you're out on location, you can actually get a lot done in a very short period of time. Like I said, I don't know how far we're going to get. I'm not even paying attention to the time. But when I've painted in Yosemite before, you know, you can only, that the valley floor is so shallow, it's so steep and it's so narrow that the light changes so quickly that you only have a couple of hours to actually paint something. And now what I'm doing is I'm putting a shadow. Now I'm purposely, if you notice, I keep this area light. That's where the light's going to come. And it's always important to make sure that you have an effect as a central focal point, not a thing. Because always remember, if you watch my videos on YouTube, we don't paint things, we paint effects. And so the light.
Yeah, you're like the king of drama.
Huh?
You're like the king of drama.
Yeah, I know. I'm definitely a drama queen here. So, but the thing is, it's the lighting effects that really make a painting, not the things themselves. You know, when you think about it, if you travel, you could travel midday. If you go to the Grand Canyon and you look at the Grand Canyon midday, it's a big hole in the ground. But if you get there in the morning or in the evening, you have this wonderful lighting effect. That's when it's spectacular. So light is what changes things to take ordinary to extraordinary. So I purposely want to make sure that all my water going down, all the waterfalls, is just starting to make sense of what I was trying to do.
Yep.
The waterfall here and the. So I'm trying to cover my canvas as quick as possible. And you can see like everything's in. I'm putting footnotes in. I'm going to very quickly put in a base for a couple of trees that grow over here. Again, these are footnotes. Some artists, they work really well working from the top left-hand corner all the way through. I've watched them outdoors and I'm just like amazed. I find that the best thing you can do is get in as much information as you possibly can. Now, if you notice, I'm starting to put in some trees here right next to my central focal point. The central focal point has to be the brightest area in the painting. If we cover all this light here, you can see, boom, that's where the light is. And then right next to the light, you want to have the darkest dark. That's what makes the central focal point actually have the effect of light.
Now I've got a question. You know, there's the theory that if you put something dark in the foreground, that makes, you know, the other darks recede. And so is that, if you needed a dark in your foreground, would you still make that your darkest dark?
It's the biggest contrast that you're looking for. So let's say in the foreground we have really dark darks. You know, the contrast between this water and shadow and the really dark darks that come forward to us isn't going to be the same contrast level as this really light compared to this dark that might not be as dark, but it's the biggest contrast that makes the difference.
Okay.
Okay. And then it's always a transition. You always want to have light is the symphony. It's everything. I call it, when I do coaching, I call it the Barbra Streisand effect. And if you don't have good lighting in a painting, you don't have a painting. If you think about all the great masters from Vermeer to Rembrandt, it's always about the effects of light. I find when I'm looking at a lot of artists, they're so busy trying to paint the scene so much, and it really doesn't matter because you could have a really crummy underpainting, but if you got awesome light, that's what makes it.
Yep.
So this is what I call the transition. So we go from the light coming from behind, and this is why I said I don't want this waterfall to take all the attention. That's just purely wallpaper for my effect. But my story is to tell the light that comes through the opening there along the mountain ridge, and boom. For those of you who remember back in the past, there's also a tree here that was called the Eleanor Roosevelt tree. I still in honor, she's no longer there, but I still in honor always put her in because it reminds me of the first time I went to Yosemite. All right. I'm going to carry on some of that.
What happened? Eleanor cut it down, used it for a Christmas tree.
Yeah, she may have. I don't know why they call it the Eleanor Roosevelt tree, but she was an amazing lady, so she should have had an amazing tree. And one time it was you know, standing tall, but in the 30s, I think, it broke in half, and then it was just the top half. And within the last 10 years, it's fallen over. So. And
well, hello, Northern Territory of Australia. Welcome.
Australia.
Australia, baby.
Could be one of my coaching students. I have some of them there. A shout out to all of my coaching students who are watching today. I love you guys. You're great. And
I love you too.
somebody
I love you guys
doesn't.
too.
What'd you say?
I said I love them too.
No, somebody who really needs to shout out is Allie. Allie's amazing. Who works, for Eric. She is amazing. So shout out
She
to
is
Allie.
amazing.
Um,
She doesn't watch the show. She's too busy to watch.
well, you could tell her we talked about her.
I'll tell her. Absolutely.
Okay, so so you can see. I don't know how long we have or how long I've been doing this, but you can start to see it take place. Now let's
You got
just say,
you've got at least about 25 or 30 minutes.
yeah, look at what I've got here. The whole Vernal Falls. It wasn't. Location painting is one of those things that you kind of have to develop. I mean, I kind of was an okay location painter, and for about 10 years, I took students to the national parks to go paint, but I still hadn't mastered the strength of it. It took about 10 years, and it was a trip to Mesa Verde, where I had actually gotten the power over planar painting, where everything kind of came together. And like you refer to painting as like golf, and it's kind of about getting that hole in one, that moment when everything kind of comes together. And you don't know when that happens, and it doesn't happen often, but when everything comes together, when you can actually leave a location that is really complicated, like Mesa Verde, and have something that you put in the back of your car and you go, yes, I got it. It's like getting a hole in one.
Yeah.
So, so there's
Somebody asked what brushes you're using.
Excuse me?
What brushes are you using?
Oh, I just pick up any brush.
Okay.
I don't put a lot of emphasis on supplies and brushes. It's like, this old thing. This is I can't even tell. It's like a flat.
Can't read it, can you?
No, it's got finger mix morto. It's probably an Escada or something. But the thing is, I can do a whole painting with just one brush.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter if you have this, fancy. As long as some of my students, they start off, and I said, send me pictures of your brushes, and they have like sticks, these little hard things with no hair on it. And I tell them, I said, a brush that has no hair on it is not a brush; it's a stick. You actually have to have good brushes. But it doesn't matter what size, if it's a filbert or flat. If it pushes paint around, it's a good start.
All right.
What's really important, though, is your canvas base, like the masterpiece canvas. But I've actually gone to completely using boards, because I find that the tooth of the canvas absorbs light. And one of the things that I love about a painting is getting the effect of light. And all those pores that are in a canvas. And a lot of beginning students, they like go to Michael's and they pick up that cheap canvas with all of those pores in it. They don't realize that every one of those pores has a light and shadow, light and shadow, light and shadow, and it ruins the whole effect. I mean, the old masters really wanted to have a flat surface that light would reflect on.
Tight weave, yeah.
Yeah, so you don't want to have a lot of texture, and it pays to get a good canvas, and it does pay to have good brushes, because that's your sword, that's what you wield. But I don't have like a specific kind of brush or.
You look like a guy that would carry a sword.
You've been peeking. I'm like Caravaggio. I carry my sword when I go out. Some people carry guns. I carry my sword. But it's only a show sword. It doesn't cut very well. I use it to fillet brie and bread. So, okay. So I have a little bit of light here. I'm going to take lemon yellow. I'm using cobalt blue, alizarin crimson, and cad yellow light and lemon yellow. And I'm mixing lemon yellow with alizarin crimson.
People would love to see your palette at some point.
Yeah, I can. Let's see. I'd have to move the camera.
Well, why don't we do that? We'll save it for the end.
Okay, yeah, in case I can't get you back again.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put in some highlights into the mountain here. And I just want to kind of put the footnotes in. Now, if I were to do this on location, again, these would just be all footnotes, like the light hitting the edge of because the light would be moving. It would be moving. I'd be chasing it and chasing it.
So you want to
So I
remember
always put in
where
a
it
footnote.
lays in, and then you're going to strengthen it later.
Yeah, and if you notice, all this is kind of in right now. You know, a lot of times I've been in the astral, and being a plein air painter is I mean, it is so amazing, because if you really are a passionate plein air painter, you go to areas of the world
Right.
that is just amazing. I mean, you know, and you let things, like I told you about the Mesa Verde painting. When I went to Mesa Verde, it was so complicated. I mean, I actually have it here. Hold on. I don't know if you can actually see it, but it was, there we go. It was so complicated to be outdoors and paint such a complicated thing and try to do it in a couple of hours, that I went there really early and the park was closed, and the ranger came and said, "What are you doing out here?" And I said, "I wanted to get early and start painting this place, and now it's closed." And he goes, I'll open it up for you." So like,
Nice.
stuff like that happens to you when you're a plein air painter.
It may have been the fact that you were carrying a sword and he wanted to keep his head.
Yeah, I know. That could very well be. That's how people recognize me, though. But this is the way I like to dress all the time. It stops traffic when they shop at Walmart.
You make your own clothes too, don't you?
No, I have them made custom.
Oh, you have them made. You design your own
Yeah,
clothes.
no, I spend too much time coaching and painting. Not a lot of time for making clothes and whatnot.
Yeah. All right.
But surprising, a lot of people have adopted my look, so I've got to come up with something else. Again, I'm putting the footnote of more trees up above the waterfall. Now, I'm going to start putting in some of the rocks and formations here. Again, I don't want to have a big contrast here, because I want the big contrast to be over there. Now, one of the most important things that artists need to know, and if you want all this stuff's on my blogs, on my newsletters. If you go to, actually, I have a free book on painting. If you go to stefanbaumann.com, and there's
It's on the screen, everybody. It's on the screen.
Yeah, is it on the screen? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's my. You can go there and get a free book from me, and I cover a lot of these things about. I have 12 important keys to great work, and one of them is the central focal point. One of them is the horizon, what we covered here. I don't have time to go through all of them, but edges. And I find that artists, you know, when I have a student that comes in, they call me from Australia or somewhere, and they go, "Yeah, you know, I want to get more looser with my painting. I want to have, you know, that really like Richard Schmidt look." And what I tell them is that actually, if you notice how I'm flirting around all over, putting all these really broad dynamic brushstrokes, this is the stuff that they want to get. And what I try to tell them is not something that you do at the end of the painting. It's the passion you have when you first get there. I mean, when you're out there painting for a couple of hours, you get worn out and you get tired. And it's hard at that point to be passionate. But when you're first out there and the sun isn't rising and it's 30 degrees outside, you're really like, let's get going. And so you put in a lot of these big, bold brush strokes that at the end, actually what shows through. So what happens is that you want to have big, bold brush strokes like I'm putting in, bounce around, put in the beginnings of your painting with passion, and draw these big lines in and get the rocks in and get all this stuff. And then towards the end, when you have this preliminary painting done, you actually start going in and you start looking at the focal point, because that's really the important thing. That where the central focal point is, right there, that's where the viewer sees. And we can only see one thing at a time, and we look for the thing that has the most light on it. And so your viewer will look under here, you'll put your details in this area, and you try to get the viewer to focus in on here, and then you slowly start working out from the center focal point into this chaos that you have established at the beginning of the painting. Lo and behold, this chaos is that brush strokes that you love when you look at those really loose, awesome paintings. That's, as you can see here, I've got a lot of craziness in here. And when we start getting the light into this area, and I start doing the detail and the little twigs and sticks, and we can.
Yeah, and if you do detail everywhere, you're going to draw the eye, and it's not going to know where to land.
Well, the thing is, our depth of field is very small. So, like, if I look at a person's face, or if you look at a person's face, you can only see one eye or the other.
Right.
I mean, that's how small our depth of field is. A lot of times when people do portraiture, they get it wrong because of the nose and the mouth. We don't see the nose and the mouth. It's usually out of focus. This is out of focus. When somebody's got a lazy eye, you're going, well, what eye do I look at? I mean, that's how small our focal point is. And in the landscape, same thing. You can only see this. And what you do is you tell the viewer, okay, glance over here, but come back to here, come back to here, come back to here. This, and if you notice, all of the great master paintings, they're great right where you want them. It's like theater. That's why I call it like the Barbra Streisand. You have a stage with 1,000 people on it, and you bring a beam of light to Barbara's face. What are you going to see? You're going to see Barbara. Right. So, anyway, these are all stories my students are listening to, laughing because they've all heard them. Now remember I said about the horizon line. With the horizon line here, I'm looking down at these rocks. And I've painted here before. In my PBS television show on painting in the national parks, we did an episode here. And I know that when we're standing on these rocks up here, we're looking down on these rocks here. We're going to be looking, since the horizon line is in this area here, we're going to be looking at these rocks here. So I'm going to be drawing the rocks without any tops or bottoms. It's just the sides of the rocks that I'm going to be painting in here. And anything that gets put in up here, we'll actually be looking at the underneath part of the rocks. So the trees that we're looking at up here, we're looking up underneath them. So when we're painting the trees, we have to actually imagine what they look like as we look up at them. And artists get this wrong. They don't think about where they are, the relationship to the scene. So all these trees up in here that go up here, we're going to be actually looking up at these branches and stuff, looking up underneath, and the angles of the tree is completely different than if we're just painting at it. These trees that are close to the horizon line are actually we're going to be at them, but slowly as we get higher, we're going to see a little bit underneath them also. Anything that I do down here, we're going to be looking down on.
Right. So a great trick to remember that is here, Stefan.
Yes.
A great trick is you do this. You put your brush, not the brush end, on your face, and that will help you establish where your horizon line is. And then if you look down, it tells you which direction the strokes should go to create the perspective.
Perfect. You should be doing this instead of me.
Well, I learned that from Joanna Arnett at Full Color Week.
One thing that I've learned is that you kind of hold a thing to your eyes, and you just kind of move it up and down until your eyes don't see the top or the bottom of the canvas, and that's kind of tells you what your horizon line is.
Yeah, great.
So, but it makes a huge difference when you're doing something that is like a vista like this. I mean, I don't know if you've ever walked in up to Vernal Falls, but literally when you walk up to this, the people are like this big. They're about that size. And if you can imagine, you look up at Eleanor Roosevelt tree, you can imagine what this waterfall is. And again,
so do you ever put in a person just so you can show the scale?
I do. I like actually putting in more animals than anything else. So I'll put in something for the scale. I haven't yet ever put one in for Vernal Falls, but it really is amazing. As you come around here, had you ever hiked up here, Eric?
I don't even know where Vernal Falls is.
It's in Yosemite. Vernal Falls is one of the most amazing places in America. It's a 2-mile hike from the valley floor. And when you walk up here, they call it the rainbow. And this is where you need to go, especially if you go in May or June. Right when you pass the Eleanor Roosevelt tree, you kind of come around, and there they call that the Rainbow Trail. And
Nice,
everywhere you look, there are rainbows. Every
nice.
direction, there's just rainbows coming because the way that the light goes into this canyon. And the wind is like at 60 miles an hour. So everybody there has to have raincoats and stuff because you just get drenched with all of the
Right.
water that's coming off of it.
Yeah, you want to go
It's
there in
really,
the summer.
yeah, well, it's like baptism. It's like, it's a nature baptism or something. It's really
Right.
great.
Well, I've painted
Um,
Yosemite, but I've not painted that falls.
well, why don't you come out here and we'll go there together?
All right, you're
And then
on.
when you hike up here, you actually walk along the wall here, and the people are so small you don't see them. It's like Yellowstone Falls, it's huge. And as you get up here, there's another fall in the back that's Nevada Falls, equally spectacular. So
Now, people are asking, somebody asked, these are oils, I assume. Is that correct?
yes, I'm an oil snob. And students who start off with me coaching, they'll start off with watercolors and they'll start off with acrylics. But I get them going over to oils pretty quickly. I mean, with Gamsol nowadays and the different types of mediums that we're using, they're no longer dangerous. And notice I don't have, look, Mom, no hands. There's no gloves. The fear that's put out there is, oh, you're going to die. Well, think about Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. They were painting with raw pigments, grinding them down. They were working with raw turpentines, and they lived to be 80, 90 years old, older than anyone else.
Just think how old they could have lived.
I know. Well, when you reach that certain age, I think everybody around them goes, God, I wish Michelangelo would die. But nonetheless, the thing is, if it was that deadly, you'd have people dropping over all the time. Artists would all live to be 30 or 40. They all live to be older than anyone else. So if anything, and if you could, not Monet, but Manet died of syphilis. So actually sex is worse for you than oil painting. So give that.
Yeah, let's open that dialogue. That'll be popular.
I know. Well, that's just in case people are bored and they're not listening anymore.
Yeah, anytime you mention that word, everybody perks up.
So here again, and see, you can get the effective trees. Again, I haven't switched any brushes here, but look at the effective trees that you can with the really soft, again, soft edges everywhere.
You've got about 15 minutes.
Wow, see?
And you're doing great.
They said it couldn't be done.
Oh, no, they didn't. We knew better.
Well, let's see here. I'm gonna get.
Somebody says we should go to Iguazu Falls in Argentina. There's 200 waterfalls in a 5-mile area. We'd have to take a lot of canvas.
We would, and we'd have to paint them. One of the secrets, and I'll tell this right now, but if you really want to learn how to do plein air painting, is to actually go on a trip and don't bring your camera. That's really, if you want to learn how to go like the old masters and go through the park step by step, slowly painting, and really rely, because a lot of plein air painters, I've seen plein air painters stick their camera outside of their car and drive through the park taking pictures. I see a lot of plein air painters going, oh, I'll finish it off in the studio using my photos. And then they wonder why their paintings don't have that wonderful passion to them.
Yeah.
If you leave a place and you don't have a picture for it, then you start learning what is really important to get. And again, it's usually the first 15 minutes when you get to a place, and that is the lighting effect. Now remember, no artist has any business out there painting after 9 o'clock. And no artist should be painting between 9 o'clock and 5 o'clock. Though at that period of time, the lighting is dull. But when you get up at 6 in the morning, I know that's really hard for a lot of people, but once a week priests do it. So you could do it once a week also. And if you get up early in the morning and you stand in a place like this and the light turns on, that moment is what you want to capture. Don't paint during that moment. Look at it.
Yeah.
Look at that moment. Cherish that moment. Memorize that moment, like Carlson said in his book, memorization. Memorize what that is. Say to yourself, where's my central focal point? Where do I want to have the viewer land? What's the light doing? Take notes about what's going on and then retain that. Usually what I would do is, obviously you could see I did this in about 45 minutes. What I would do right now is I would take this easel and turn away from the scene. And I would work the next hour completely with me in the canvas, looking over at my shoulder to see, oh, where's that rock at, or what kind of tree that was. Because I don't want to be influenced by all the different lighting effects. And if something more spectacular happens, I go, thank you, but I'll just save that for another painting.
Yeah.
So it's really important to stay focused on your original idea.
You've got about 15 minutes.
Ah, see. Okay, Eric. So you said something about water. You know, here's one of the key things about water is a lot of it's the edge. You don't see a lot happening in water. It's usually just kind of chaotic. So what I'm doing here is I'm bringing those, remember I told you those upstrokes? It's these outer strokes that help get the feeling of water. Of course, the soft edges where the water hits, and see when I put a lot of that paint in, I can start doing finger painting. Now, those of you that insist on wearing rubber gloves, you'll never know the joy of the edge of a pinky and rubbing paint around. But I want to kind of get that water, that misty quality. And one of the things that people do when they lay the water down like that is that they forget sometimes, you know, they keep going lighter and lighter, but sometimes it's best to go darker and actually get more shadows on the inside of it. And that helps you at this point too, you kind of do a reverse thing to help break up, because it's just textures, lots of different textures, all kind of in a shadow area, because you want to create depth, because there's a lot of water coming over that edge. I want to darken the rocks around the water. That helps bring more emphasis on my waterfall, but it also gives the feeling that the water is stained the rocks or wet the rocks some. Somebody
asked what you keep dipping your brush into.
I keep dipping my brush into turpentine to clean it.
Okay.
So it's just dirt and a rag. Nothing up my sleeves. Okay. And the white I'm using, for no reason, I just grabbed it, is Kremets and zinc. And I thought, oh, people are going to crazy, you're using zinc. Don't worry about it. It's not going to, nothing's going to happen in your lifetime. And if your work's really that great, somebody will figure out how to conserve it. So I'm not really one of these big fans of like worrying about the future. I grab whatever I can now. Okay. And now I'm going to, I need to squeeze out some more white. Are there any questions coming through, Eric?
Probably. I'll check. You never use white directly out of the tube, though. You always add something into it.
Yeah, no, I never use pure anything. It's always a variation. And I keep my palette really simple. Like you said, I have cobalt blue, alizarin crimson, cad yellow, medium cad yellow light. I have a larger palette of highlight colors. Sometimes I use the yellow, green, and cerulean blue. And my shadow colors are really kind of simple. It's usually the asphaltum, and I can, you know, make a yellow ochre out of that. I've been painting for so many years that there's no mystery in color mixing for me. I think color is the least important in all of the whole faction. I mean, you'll hear artists say value is the most important, but to me, temperature is the most important, which is a whole another discussion. But anyway, so you can see I'm just kind of putting in, see the texture I'm putting in? You know, most people will take their waterfall and they go like, you know, but water doesn't fall like that. It falls in bunches as it comes over these large falls. I'm going to take cobalt blue.
Hey, you guys hang in there. We're going to give away 2 of Stefan's workshops live. Make sure you have, tell us where you're from in your comments. And here's how we're going to do it, Stefan.
Yeah.
We have a whole lot of comments. And so what I'm going to do when we're ready to do it, I'm going to say go, and I'm going to just start scrolling, and then you say stop. And wherever my cursor is when you say stop, that'll be the first one.
Okay.
All right. So we'll do that right before we wrap up in about 7 or 8 minutes.
So we're putting in, and again, I want to emphasize the edge of the waterfall. So I'm putting the dark along the edge. I put in, if you ever go to Vernal Falls, there's this wonderful transparent blue-green. Same thing, Yellowstone Falls. And so I want to put that blue-green in as a base. It only happens when the light actually hits it. But you can see, yeah, and I'm not really paying attention too much because I wanted to show you how to do the little bags of water. But you can see I'm losing my central focal point again. And so, I wanted to get that tone down again. Sorry, Eric. But that needs to get toned down. It's really important to keep that central focal point. The central focal point should be no larger than an egg.
So at some point, would you pump the light up on that more, or is it where you want it to be?
What, on the waterfall?
On the focal point.
Oh, on the focal point? That's almost pure lemon yellow and white.
Yeah, it's a little hard to tell. Maybe at the end we can take the camera and get a little closer.
Yes. So and then, here again too, I'm going to darken the water around it. People say, well, I can't get anything lighter because I've gone, it's like I'm using pure lemon yellow and white that doesn't get any lighter. What am I going to do? I'm going to die. And when you hit that spot, you have to make everything else darker. So by darkening the water down here, you can see that pumps the highlight back up here. And like I said,
would you try to use a little bit of a complementary color, to that yellow?
No, I don't like using complementary colors. They irritate me.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the complementary colors, again, I'm not a big color fan. I'm a temperature fan. But complementary colors, they cause a lot of vibration. And they do catch your eye, but not as much as just the effect of light on something. Too much complementary color, like when you see an orange on a blue background, people go, oh, that's just wonderful. But it's really irritating when you see the two colors battling it out. It does make them bounce, but it doesn't feel like you want to look at that painting for a long time. So complementary colors are a bit overrated in my book.
Okay.
Again, that's me though. And I know a lot of people who turn into these videos, they're always thinking, oh, I'm going to watch Stefan today because I'm going to find out some magical, wonderful thing. Just that one thing that's going to change the way I paint forever. But, in essence, the best thing you can do is just paint because everybody has their own little shtick.
Well, I think you did say one thing that'll change their life forever, and that is don't paint things, paint light.
Paint light, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so if you notice, I transitioned from a light to a shadow. You'll notice how my shadows are really intense here. I would even go so far, again, I'm going to clean my brush here. Same brush. And I'm going to even darken behind here. Later on, when I get into the studio or if I'm out there for a while, and I'm just bouncing all over here, and this is the way I paint though. I go out there and I put footnote, and then refine. But as I darken around here, that light just becomes more and more. You can see that.
Sure,
I don't know if you can see it on the screen. Yeah. But it's a darkening of all this that makes the light bounce. So you can go back in and brighten something by darkening everything else around it.
All right, so I think we better stop the painting and we better pick the winner. It's amazing that you've pulled that off in the short amount of time you have.
Yeah, well, Eric, I've been painting for 40 years, so it's like,
yeah.
It's like,
and you're only 50, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, a lot of people, they watch my YouTube video, but to me, the most important thing when you're painting is the knowledge. And a lot of people say, well, you don't paint. All you do is talk in the video. Really, if you listen to my YouTube videos and listen in, you get a lot of these insights that stick in your head, and you get a lot of answers. Now, there are a lot of people that will paint and not talk. And I feel that it's more important to get knowledge than it is just watching somebody paint. It's a very passive activity.
Well, you don't know if you're painting and you're not talking. We don't know what you're thinking.
Yeah,
We don't
yeah.
know
But you've seen,
why,
you see,
why behind it.
yeah. Gurney said I have an uncanny ability to paint and talk at the same time. So, you know, but doing the television show, it's caused me to kind of get that way, though.
Yeah, you're a pretty well-known guy.
I am. I've got the gray hairs to prove it.
Okay, why don't you come back on quickly? Show us your palette. Let us see your sculpture, and then we're going to pick a winner.
Let's see. How can I do this here?
I don't know.
Here that we're going to get a jiggle and a jog.
That's all right.
Whoops. There's the jiggle. And here's my palette.
Oh, you have one of those palettes. That's fabulous. That's beautiful.
Oh, I love those palettes that, you know, kind of.
I don't know if they even make those anymore. I know they're very hard to find now. I know they're very expensive, but
and they have drawers on the side that you put your paint in, you know. So, and then over here is my kids, my sculptures. There's a bear. There's
very nice.
Yeah. So yeah, this is another passion. This is a seal rock. There's a bear standing up. He's got a couple of cubs.
Now, are those bronze or they clay? What are they?
They're actually wax.
They're wax.
Yeah, so I do waxes, and I just find that the wax is more, they stay together better. If you do it in the clay and you don't cast them right away, they have a tendency to kind of break apart and get hard. The waxes is in summertime, they sometimes kind of start to limp. Then I have a problem with metal things.
Well, sometimes it gives them a little more character, more drama. Okay, Stefan.
New idea.
Okay, so I'm going to start scrolling, and I'm just going to stop when you say stop. So ready?
Go.
All right. I'm scrolling.
Stop.
Okay, the winner is Rosemarie Mortensen. Rosemarie Mortensen. So Rosemarie, let's see, how are we going to give this away, Stefan? Do we want them to send you an email?
Yes, you can, or just call me. All my stuff's on my, you know, on the website, and my email's there, or it's on here.
Okay.
And Rosemary will get a hold of me. It's $500 workshop, so she'll be here in April. And we do
All right,
the whole coronavirus thing. It's all outdoors. We don't, you know, I get as close as, you know, 6 feet from you and kind of yell at you and go, stop it. Don't do that.
Okay, here we go again. Ready? We're going to do a second one, right?
Yep, go for it.
Okay, I'm scrolling.
Stop.
Karen Pierce, or Kyrie Pierce, K-A-Y-R-E, Kyrie Pierce. All right, congratulations. All right, Kyrie, you're going to have to go to stefanbaumann.com and contact him to get your workshop. Well, Stefan, this has been a pleasure having you on today, and you're such a great teacher.
Thank you. It's a passion. I mean, that's why I've got so many coaching students around the world. So
yeah, well, everybody go to stefanbaumann.com to find out about his teaching, his videos, his PBS show, which is called The Grand View, and probably 100 other things we don't know about. He's pretty industrious.
Yeah, and I will be at your workshop in Colorado too. So
yeah, at the plein air convention. So come and see. Come and do people walk up to you and ask for your autograph?
They do. They recognize me from PBS though.
Is that a little weird?
You know, they what's weird is when I'm at Taco Bell and they ask me. You know, because I said, and I forget because we filmed that so long ago, but I'm still on the air. But yeah, people actually start staring and go, why are they staring at me? I usually think it's my clothes. And they'll like come up and they go, aren't you an artist on television? And I go, yep. And they go, my father watches you all the time. You're like in our house 24/7. So yeah, I do have some people that really watch me a lot.
That's fun. That's great. Well, Stefan, thank you so much for being on today. And if you guys will just hang in there for a couple of minutes, I've got a couple of quick announcements, and then we're going to go. Stefan, thank you again.
Thanks, Eric. Have a good day.
Visit him at stefanbaumann.com, STEFANBAUMANN, 2Ns.com. I didn't introduce myself at the beginning of the show. My name's Eric Rhoads. I publish Plein Air Magazine, Fine Art Connoisseur, and a bunch of newsletters. We do virtual conferences, live in-person conferences, videos, instructional videos. We do a lot of different things. You can find everything we do at streamlinepublishing.com/everything. Streamlinepublishing.com/everything. And, you know, it's just tons of things that we do. I wanted to mention to you today at 3 p.m. I'm here every day at 12 noon, 5 days a week. Since coronavirus started, it was 7 days a week for months. Now we're at day 314. Every day at 3, we also do an art instruction video that we have produced, a segment from that, and interviews with the artists. Today, we have Amory Bowling painting the Grand Canyon. It's ironic that Stefan was talking about that. She's going to show you how she does this painting, and it's from this video. And of course, we have discounts on the videos. So that's today at 3 o'clock. Also, want to mention to you that we announced at Watercolor Live, which just wrapped up on Saturday night, we announced that we're doing a new Watercolor Live, and we're also doing a new Plein Air Live. And we already have over 1,000 people signed up between the two of those. And we'll tell you coming up how to get to those. But these virtual conferences are great. We had 40 countries, we had thousands of people, and it's really a lot of fun to be part of that. And of course, I love hosting it. I'm a ham. So come in here and check for that. The other thing is, if you would give me a follow, that would be great. It's Eric Rhoads. Just follow me on Instagram. Just go over there right now when we end and just do that. Last but not least is I am taking a group of people to Russia. It's a Russian art trip. Just go to paintrussia.com. We're going to do it in September, assuming it's safe. And we have 48 people going, and we have, I think, either 4 or 3 seats left. And so I'd like to get that sold out. If you've been on the fence about it, now's the time to make your decision. But it's going to be phenomenal. We are going to have a private, imagine going to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York and them saying, by the way, you're the only people here, roam around and go wherever you want to go. That it's going to be like that at the Great Hermitage Museum. We have that. We're going to the Russian Museum. We're going to the Tretyakov Museum. We're going to paint. We're going to Ilya Repin's art studio. We're going to be painting in the countryside in old Russia. And we're going to be painting where the great Russian artists all painted, including the Academic Adasha, which is pretty cool, and some of the small villages. And then we're going to be painting and touring in Moscow. It's going to be a 2-week trip, and it is phenomenal. So go to paintrussia.com to learn about it and grab your seat, because there's only 3 or 4 left. All right. Thank you for watching. I'm Eric Rhoads, publisher of Fine Art Connoisseur and Plein Air Magazine. I hope you'll join me every day. We're here 314 days. And the reason we did this is because we wanted to be there for you. You know, coronavirus was pretty frightening, still is. And a lot of us have been in lockdown. Most of us were in lockdown at some point. We're free here in Texas, but we're careful. And we want to just make sure that we're lifting up your spirits and making you feel good and giving you something to think about and focus on. And so thank you for tuning in. And we will see you tomorrow at 12 noon. And our guest tomorrow, let's see, who's our guest tomorrow? Carla Bosch will be here tomorrow. You'll get a chance to see a different perspective on painting. Lovely, energetic painting. She's a palette knife painter, Carla Bosch. All right, so that's tomorrow, and we will see you then. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.